is a man.
Really?
Yeah, I know. He's got good taste.
No kidding. He won't have any problems hooking up in his lifetime.
No, he's not.
Yeah. I already turned it on, but it's going to take a little bit. Let's see.
Okay, cool. Sweet. It's
Yeah,
nice
a
to
lot going on, and I'm sure over there in, how do you say that place?
Australia. No.
No.
Bimby.
Where you live?
Mullumbimby.
Mullumbimby. Yeah, Mullumbimby.
One of the girls at, I don't know if you, a couple of years ago, I think I put up a post about the 5G here because we've been really vocal about the 5G in this town.
Oh, really?
One of the girls at yoga yesterday, or on last Wednesday, she said that her brother's training as a technician for Telstra, which is the telecommunications company over here. They've kind of got a monopoly. And he said that they were told that they have given up trying to install 5G in Mullumbimby.
Really?
Yes.
That's pretty awesome.
She said, "Do you think that'll get out in the news?" And I said, "No."
No, it won't get out in the news. I mean, it's such a crapshoot, though. Like, what is 5G? Like, what can it really do? Is it just the power of suggestion? I don't know. I woke up today just going, I don't know shit, as usual. like, you get these feelings of I'm not doing enough, lethargy, apathy.
Yeah.
And then you see these extraordinary things occurring. Like that's a powerful thing for a community to say, I'm not going to have 5G. And you see the truckers, and then you see this thing in Canberra, and they put on this solar, frequency and drive everybody out. And you think, well, what else do they have?
Yeah.
And who is they? And when is the equilibrium coming in? Is it coming in? I mean, it's I don't know. Which is why I like talking to you, because you get the best of both worlds. It's the human part and it's the connected part. But yeah.
Yeah. I've found that I've really there's a few channels on Telegram that I am connected with. And so I have a broad overview of what's happening in that 3D world, but I feel, there's no emotional connection to it anymore whatsoever.
Wow.
There's just not like, and I can see it, what's happening. It was so wonderful last week to see what was happening in Australia, because
I
we're
know, that
choosing.
was amazing. That was just like,
Yeah,
whoa.
it was wonderful to see it, but at the same time, thank you. At the same time, the there was still part of it that was, that was obviously orchestrated to achieve an agenda. And
See, that's
so
what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. It's like everything has a yin yang. And
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
right. And it's like, yeah. I mean, so it's like, okay, people used to say, oh, you can't just throw love and light at everything. And so then there's this deep dive and the shadows and all the stuff that we talk about. And then you kind of come out the other side, and it's kind of the same approach. You can't get pulled into it, like you said. You just observe it, and then, but it's like you hold the same intention for anything and everything. It's weird.
Yeah. And for me, it's always asking, what do I want? What do I want to create? Because I, when I thought about, what was going on in Canberra last week, and I went, it's awesome because there's so many people that are waking up to the corruption that's gone on, that we've all allowed to go on.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, like every step of the way during COVID, for me individually, for James and I as a partnership, we've been able to, I love it how it's become a thing, like during COVID. During this time frame over the last 2 years, it's given us more and more opportunities to step deeper into the embodiment that we've been doing for the last 12 years. And and to just go, okay, well, what are we creating, and why would we step back into that world?
Right.
And so there's always got to be a balance. And for me, you know, I feel that it's important to remind people that there are people that have been living outside that system for a really long time and they're thriving. And so why would you want to try and hold on to this system, because it wasn't working in the first place? Like,
Exactly.
and so, you know, whilst I support the people that are going to Canberra and speaking to the politicians, that's not my role, because I actually don't give the politicians any power anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't participate in their system, because to me it's corrupt, and I don't consent to their leadership.
Right. Right. Let's go back to that. Because one of the things I really admire about you, because I don't read a lot of people religiously, but if I see you put something up, I usually read the whole thing. What I admire about you is you point things out, but you don't point it out with a charge. You just say, this is what's happening, or you'll say, props to those people. You know, that's a brave person, that's a brave soul, or that's a brave movement, or that's a whatever. But so you kind of expose things, I guess, in a way, but you also bring in this other side that keeps everything. In other words, you always pull it back to the perspective. You own the perspective that you have. You don't fall back into it, and I think that's so. Like, I think that's a big deal for people right now. I see this in the community, and you see we've all seen it evolve, and so it's like, okay, I'm not going to give my power to that, but yet there's something happening, like at a consciousness level, to me, which is, it seems like that which I'm not giving my power to is standing in the way of what I want. But I know it's not. How do I crack the safe? You know, how do I open that door?
I love that, because when I was walking this morning, I was thinking about, I wonder what Todd and I are going to talk about today.
Mhm.
And then a conversation that I had with a friend yesterday actually just came into my head. And she actually answered that question that you just asked, because she said, I realized that everything that's come up, because she's been really working with herself through this whole process and standing in her sovereignty. And she said, I realized that everything that's come up for me over the last 2 years that I have feared, that I've walked into, didn't really exist anyway. And it wasn't really a problem. And so she said it was only my fear of being hurt or, you know, being wronged that caused me to have that expression, you know, that emotion in the first place. But then when I let myself explore it and take an action anyway, I realized that it wasn't real.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, which is,
No mistakes that you were talking to her about that.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah. There's just so much
Yeah,
to it. You know, there's that which is you know, the facets of what you and your friend were talking about, or my question and what we're talking about, it's all the same. Then you have the physical ramifications of whatever this is, the solar waves or photonic light or whatever you want to call it. It's just like, I mean, 3 days in a row on my ass on the couch, and if I wasn't doing this, and I'm going, what the hell am I doing here? Like, you know,
yeah,
like, what's happening with this? And
yeah,
you know, and you have the mind, and it's certainly not what it was before. Um, I think for many of us, it doesn't have the dominance it had, like what you were
no,
saying, what she was saying about that fear's not even there. And I'm a big believer in doing something, even, you
yeah.
know, you don't know if it's going to be the right thing, but you move that direction, right?
100%. There was Trisha just made a comment about it's difficult to not give power to the system when we still buy petrol, when we still pay car registration. And I completely resonate with that, because for me, a few years ago, I got really angry that I had to pay car registration, because I know I know the the corporate agenda of how this stuff works. And I was like, I'm just giving my money. And so I needed to change how I was looking at that, because I love my car because it gets me to where I need to go. And so even though when I'm registering my car, I'm as far as registration goes, I'm handing it over to the state, and I'm consenting that the state owns my car, or the state as in the corporate organization that I'm registering it with. I am doing that with a consciousness that allows me to go, okay, cool. I am collaborating with you here, so that, because I understand that you made the roads and you've got these, you've got these channels upon which I can drive. And so I'm going to collaborate with you to do that. And so that's when I pay my registration, I'm now paying it with that energy. I'm not paying it with adversarial energy anymore.
That's right.
The same with fueling my car. When I'm fueling my car, I am putting that fuel in, and I'm grateful that this fuel exists so that I can get to where I need to go. And so, yeah, that's an awesome comment, because that was what I had to do. I had to change the way that I was framing the situation, because when I change the way that I'm framing the situation, I've got the power back. And that was this conversation I was having with my friend as well, because she was saying, I checked into this place and I felt out of integrity. And I said, so in that moment, when you felt out of integrity, there's an element of you that feels powerless because you believe that the system has power over you. And so I said to her, okay, well, why did you do that? Because I wanted to have a coffee with my friend. Okay, awesome. So in that moment, you were choosing to make your connection with your friend the most important thing. And you did what you needed to do in order to be able to do that. And so that's what brings our power back in a situation. And we can allow ourselves then we don't have to let ourselves we don't have to beat ourselves up. We can actually forgive. Well, in the past, I would have said this. It's for me, it's like I said that I would never have a cesarean. And when Penny was born, I had to have a cesarean. It was an emergency cesarean. I went through all of this labor and it just wasn't happening for me because of where I was in my life at the time. But I needed to have a cesarean. And so I needed to come to peace with the fact that I'd made that decision. And of course I did, because I've got, a beautiful, who's now a young woman, but I had a beautiful baby and she was fine and I was fine. And so I forgave myself for the rigidity that actually caused me to feel like I was out of integrity in the first place.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. And I've talked about this, and I've had like a split experience. One experience has been, and this has gone on for many years, like even going back before I woke up, like in the early 2000s, let's just say, with my relationship with the American government, the American legal system, the American tax system, whatever. And I've had this thing, and it happened even before my supposed awakening in 2011. And I was working unconsciously, I think more unconsciously than not, energetically. So I did the same thing. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was like, this is not going to have power over me. It's not even in my field. I remember saying those words in like 2003, 2004. And sure enough, certain things happened. You could say it was a coincidence, but it happened and it all went away. Now, fast forward, like I'm sitting here with 2 titles to 2 vehicles that are not in my name. And why aren't they in my name? Because I've had this reluctance to go back into the system and register. I had an expired driver's license for a year and a half. Same thing. I went and got my state ID. Now I'm getting my license. So I'm really thankful that you just explained that, because sometimes we know things and we might have even done them before, but like you were saying at the beginning of the show, sometimes we fall back.
Yeah.
But when I was listening to you, it reminded me of two things. One was I've had this ongoing relationship, really took off like in 2016, of 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 you know, bringing the light in is not a problem. Bringing the dark in, that's been a challenge for everybody. But I've really had this ongoing relationship. It really culminated when I caught COVID in October. I had 5 days of these intense integrations with dark, grotesque, demonic, all kinds of dark energy, which obviously that's just for description basis. I brought them into my heart and expanded again. And so I kind of look at it like that. And then the other thing I think of is this kid, Mateus De Stefano, that does the Intuition series on Gaia. And he has another series that came out before that with 3 episodes. And he talks about being called to these mountains in South America, right when his journey started, right when his grid work started. And he documented everything. So they go to the mountains, and this black energetic snake starts rolling around the car, and it flips it over. Everybody gets out. Everybody's safe. An ambulance pulls up out in the middle of nowhere just by chance, and they all go to the hospital and everything's fine. Bottom line is he goes to the town. The townspeople say, oh yeah, that energy's out there. We all know it. And what happened was this energy was like the guard dog energy of this sacred mountain where he was told to go. So when he came back out, he sat down, he said, hello, I'm here. This is what I'm trying to do. So in other words, listening to you, which is a very physical kind of recollection, that we can pull up as humans. It's really an energetic thing that you're talking about. You're talking about like making peace with that which you think is more powerful than you. So what's the difference between that and the ugly demon I saw on or about October 15th, that came into my heart? I mean, what's the difference? You're actually not divorcing yourself from that energy. You're actually working with it in collaboration. And I guess by human terms, transforming it or bringing it into equilibrium. So I appreciate you sharing that. I really do.
100%. And we also had the same thoughts as you about going back into the system, because we exited the system in 2011, and then in 2017 we had an opportunity to go back and to do something different, and it was, there was fear around it for us. But Matrix, it's Revolutions, Matrix Revolutions. At the end of Matrix Revolutions, Neo goes back into, he takes over the Matrix and he becomes the one. And he does that, and that's exactly where we're all at now. And when those of us who have been living this and who've awakened to this long ago, when we go back into this, we're taking our light into the system, and we are simply changing the vibration and the frequency of that, because we've been doing it out here for so long. But we all exist with light and dark. Light and dark exists in all of us. We are it. It is us. And when we collaborate with it, when we come from that energy of collaborating with it, then we're not making it wrong anymore, which means we're not making it wrong anymore, and we can be whole, and we can truly be free.
Yeah. And I think there's two aspects to that, as I'm listening to you, because there's parts of the system that I won't, and I'm not afraid of it.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it. Like if I didn't do it, they'll put me in prison or whatever. I'm not worried about that. I don't care. Kill me. I don't care. I'm just not going to go there. But there's other parts like getting my license, and we're processing immigration with Morgan, and obviously a lot of things get divulged there, and that I'm engaging. And now you've helped me, like even bring it to a higher level of equilibrium. But there's certain things that I'm just not going to engage in. And if somebody else does, that's none of my business, but I'm not going to do it because because I am at an equilibrium, at least for this time. And maybe something changes when you have more experience and more awareness, but it's just not, I always use the analogy, if it's a kid, you're a little kid, you go into a room full of toys, You play with some things and you don't play with some things, and that's all it is. I'm not going to
Yeah.
play with certain things, and it's not because I feel like it has a power over me. It's just because it's not my. I'm not in alignment with it.
Yeah.
I respect its presence in the universal, but it's just not. It's not my thing.
Yeah. And I'm aware of its existence. I'm aware that it's there and I can
Mm,
let it be there. But I don't have to interact with it because it's
mm,
not part of my purpose. And I don't consent to it having any power over me.
mm.
And 100%, there are loads of parts of that system that I won't interact with because
Yeah,
they don't resonate with me.
yeah. But I love the thing about driving the car. You know, like that's
Yeah.
our spaceship. For a lot of
Yeah.
people, right? That's our spaceship.
Yeah.
I
And
don't believe in I
that's
don't
what
believe
we've
in
got.
ownership. I don't believe in ownership, but it's not going to kill me to go register these vehicles,
Yeah.
right? It's not like it's going to, it's just not. It's just an energy kind of experience. And then the
Yeah.
gas is, I mean, I get that. That's a really good analogy,
Yeah.
and literal.
I'm
The
not going to
gas.
fight it anymore.
I don't want to
I'm not
fight. I'm
going to fight
tired.
it anymore because I know why I'm here and I know what's important to me, and that's what counts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the proof is there, right? I mean, like you and both of you. I mean, your whole family. But like, I think it was 2 or 3 shows back when you came out with that picture. I think I put it up on the post this time too, where you're standing up talking to a group, and you could just see like your aura. Like, there's so many people that are actually exhibiting that, regardless of what it has happened or not happened over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, to see the thriving occurring is a very powerful thing.
Yeah. I was reflecting on that image because I hadn't seen it for a while, and I saw that you used that image, and I was reflecting on that time, and that was August last year.
Mm,
And that time for me, James and I in our relationship, that time for me was a really, really powerful time because that picture was taken at an event with two of my dearest friends, who are both amazing women that have created these incredible creations in the world. And and I'm in awe of what they've been able to create. And I was the one that was running the event, and they were there with me, and so I was feeling this sense of humility in the connection that I have with powerful women in my life. And that period in August was really, it marked a turning point for me where I really did lean into the power of the feminine in my life, and start to like really notice the amount of incredible women that I'd created. Like, I'd called all of these women into my life, and I was feeling really challenged in my relationship with James and in the masculine. And it was the strength and power of the connections that I had with women, both in the ether, in the physicality, in all dimensions, that has brought me through this. And we talk about the feminine rising, and the feminine has been, we all know the feminine has been rising so powerfully. But what I feel like I've done since August is to like allow the feminine to really rest in my body. And again, like, I'm not fighting it anymore. Like, I
mm,
can't, there's no sense of, I won't accept betrayal from the feminine. I won't accept any of those sister wounds that we've been conditioned to believe, so that we can be separate from each other as women. All of that has come into me in this time, and it's the power of the feminine that has helped me to really step into the next level of thriving of who I am, and be the individual that I can be, and completely let go of, when last time James and I were on your show together, and let go of any need to to have him, because we've been together for so long, we created like these codependencies, and I wasn't fully truly in my feminine. And so yeah, that picture for me says so much.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, people saw it when it came out. I remember I commented and said, "There's a goddess," or your goddess is coming through, or something. But a
Yeah.
lot of people, a lot of people saw that. I thought it was very important, and also very important to put it out again, with the show. But yeah, like, what does that feel like? I mean, so there's certain things, even being in a long-term linear wise relationship like with you and James. I mean, there's certain things that, and we've talked about this when y'all are on individually or you're together, there's two different paths. There was a couple that was on, and I won't mention any names. I don't know why, but since it's all personal, sometimes I feel weird talking to people when they go deep. But she was saying how, and see, they went through something really traumatic, and it revolved around COVID and hospitalization. You know, actually, it was Heather Grace Powers. There's nothing wrong with it, and Jason Michael Powers, and they've been pretty public, like you two, and like we are, and that says a lot. But she was talking about, and I can't remember the specifics, but they had like a lot of people have had individually, couples, and so on during these last few months, which is just more's on the table, more's coming to the surface, and being acknowledged and recognized, and the separation is diminishing, and so on. That she was saying how she felt disrespected uh, by the masculine, this was her masculine, but it was what she was saying. Like, I just went, what? Like, I didn't even know that was there. I might have heard something or viewed something, but I didn't really know that that's how she felt. And so there's two different paths there. And so, like, when I look at that picture and look at just what I've known about you, and so beautiful watching everybody, I'm sure they see the same in me, and everybody's changing, but the impact it has on your masculine energy, to include the masculine divine that you've incarnated in your life. I mean, it's like, really, you can see how one kind of infuses, the other energy, and it starts to, come into a higher level of equilibrium, which takes us to, this show I just had, it was mentioned early on about astrological or whatever. I don't know that much about it, but I happened to see and heard last week that, like, Venus and Mars are coming into this conjunction, or this arrangement for like the next 2 years. That's very rare. And I think,
Yeah.
wow, maybe there's something to this. Maybe we're actually, because it does feel like there's more balance between the masculine and feminine energies, at all levels over the last, certainly the last couple of months, and maybe going back 3 or 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I don't know. I don't know, like, I'm not an astrology expert. I follow a few people that I really respect. And so that's awesome to know that. But I totally resonate with Heather when she was saying about how she felt disrespected by the masculine. For me, it's been about disrespected by the masculine and dishonored by the masculine. And always I'm turning it back on myself and going, where am I doing that? And so, especially over the last month, it's been a huge journey in speaking that disrespect and that dishonor, so that, because the reason I felt it is because I felt it and I wasn't honoring myself, and allowing myself to actually speak it, because I was afraid of hurting my most my closest, my most intimate masculine, even though I felt like he was hurting me. Like, I was
Mhm.
submissive to that energy, rather than actually standing up and saying, no, I am equal to this energy. And Morgan's asked if I felt there's been a shift in the relationship. And when I look between the masculine and the feminine, And when I use the micro to reflect the macro and so on, absolutely, you know, all of these, I believe all of these convoys, you know, all of these people that are standing for freedom, this is the me, which is the feminine, like standing up and no longer submitting to the I, like realizing that, which is the masculine, and going, no, I'm done, enough, this is enough, like, and however that's done across, you know, it can be done in a very 3D way. It doesn't really matter. I feel that it is the feminine rising and honoring, like allowing herself to stand up and honor herself and go, enough is enough. This, I'm drawing a line in the sand here, you know, and our children have been used as an integral part of that journey and that kind of thing. And certainly, yeah, I definitely believe that dynamic has shifted in because of the strength and the power of the feminine rising.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what I was getting at. So you like, I stopped because I didn't, whatever, but it's perfect because you actually took over where I was, what I was feeling or what I was seeing that I couldn't verbalize, which was, you put it really well. So like, because it worked both ways. So like in that moment, I saw something in her that I didn't know. And I actually saw that there was certainly a miscommunication here. But you described what the dynamics were, because the dynamics were, because they're imprinted. She didn't want to say anything because every time she did, he took it personal. And it wasn't about a lynching. It was just about information being disseminated. So then once she did that, then he was able to go, oh, it's not personal. This is just the way the whole shit's been built, right? And then,
but he was also able to go, yeah, sorry.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So because he was already imprinted with a certain, so it's like the old, you know, Mars Venus thing, you know, from Mars. And so now, like listening to you and just seeing what I've seen over the last few months, which has been the macro micro, right? But I mean, it's like there's a new level of, it's like a lot of the stuff that was like hanging on to us just kind of like fell off. And so like there's this new dialogue, which has reverence, which has, but it's like, I think for me, it's like the personal part has kind of dropped away. Like it's less and less and less personal, which is a good sign, I think. And again, I think that it's a really good place for us to kind of like appraise things, is what's happening with the feminine and the masculine. So I really appreciate you explaining it that way. But yeah, she definitely initiated it, and we know this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so much gratitude for that too.
Mm-hmm.
And so much gratitude for the masculine that is standing, and just like you were just saying, you know, hearing it and going, oh, I don't have to take this personally. And, you know, James and I had a conversation recently where what I had, you know, me in allowing myself to speak, my dishonor, my feelings of dishonor and disrespect, brought up a huge wound for him, that he was then able to speak and release a whole bunch of grief as a result of it, you know, and start sobbing. And me, I was able to sit there in that process and take none of it on and realize none of this is about me. Like, he's speaking this and he's been afraid of speaking it because he's afraid to hurt me, but he's now said it and it's now out there, and I'm not hurt by it because I know that it's not about me, it's about him.
It's the same dynamic. It's the same thing. Both sides, right? You know what I mean?
It creates the clarity that wasn't there before, that was creating these distortions in relationship.
Yeah, I think a big one, and it's the same template for, you know, like for men would be like I something I've had real problem or real struggle trying to watch anything, but I caught this one little part of a movie, I guess, before I turned it off, and it was so typical because, and I don't remember, it had to do with this job. Like, I've got to go do this I'm doing it for the family. I always bring it back to war. Like, and I haven't been in this incarnation in the shoes James was in, but like I've certainly had a lot of friends, and it's like, I'm doing this for my family. I'm doing this for God. I'm doing this for my country. And that's just the way it is. And there's no pushback, because the imprint's so deep. And then in this movie, the lady says to the dude, uh, who asked you to? Like, in other words, I went, oh, wow, here we go again. Bingo. He didn't even ask her, right?
Mm.
You see what I mean? So like,
Yep.
even though the whole world said you need to go serve, you need to protect, and you're a valiant and you're a loving soul, and if you die on the battlefield, then you'll be a martyr. Uh, she's going, first of all, micro. The war's not necessary.
Yep.
Uh, this family is priority. Our relationship is priority. Your priority. And have you even asked yourself, are you just, I serve two bags full? So it was like, wow, there it is again. Because in his mind, in this, and I know a lot of men could relate to this. I always told my first and second wife, I feel like a hard dick in a mule. When you start throwing that stuff at me. But what I wasn't doing was because I didn't have the capacity, like so many men, to listen to not the logic, but to listen to the intuition.
Mm.
Hey, you don't need to do that.
Yep.
No, there's nothing that says you have to do that. And if you think you're doing it for us, then how would you know that if you haven't even asked? That's what I
Yeah.
got from that movie. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That sounds very much like, almost exactly like a conversation James and I had in 2006 before he was going to Iraq.
well, there you go.
With all of that,
There you go.
it was all of that.
Yeah.
And thankfully, and then he was but it was so deeply imprinted in him,
Yeah.
because it has been, you have to
Absolutely.
be the protector, you have to be the provider. And then the feminine goes, well, what do I need to be protected from in the first place? And why do you need to provide for me? Why can't we collaborate and do this together?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. But when like I mean, it only makes sense because to me, that is a creation cycle.
Yeah.
Like if you look at 2012 and you say, okay, what birthed this? Well, it was all these women, 90% in these communities, which might be 70 now at best. It certainly, brought in more men on a percentile basis, but it was the collective energy taking hold in these individual females saying, I'm drawing a line in the sand and I'm done. Now,
Yeah.
we had levels, and through those levels, the pressure got put on, and the dynamics of the pre-existing uh, Mars Venus template that didn't work was in motion because I didn't know how to answer you. You didn't. You just the way you didn't want to bring something up.
Mm.
I didn't because it only came up now and then. In other words, when it bowled over, and I only got that part of it, and I'm thinking, well, I'm busting my ass, why are you on my case? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's to me a really good sign because there just seems to be a more fluid, clear, clarity. The field seems to be the lines of communication. So I'm really kind of anxious to see how that happens in our collective experience. Not that that's important, because to your point in 2006 or whatever, it was, hey, this is what's important.
Mm.
Think twice about making that superseding to anything within our closest circles here. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a huge, what is that, 18 year 16 years? That's a huge, just in your micro example, that's a huge amount of space to have traveled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Massive. Yeah. Well, Abby was 1 and at the time, so she's now
Mm,
16. So yeah,
yeah.
it's a long time. And and then you look at now all the things that have been happening, in Canada and in Australia, and there's big congregations of people, again, the same question has to be asked, what's most important to me? And if I'm doing it just because I'm getting carried away on the energy, then I'm actually not in my sovereignty. But if I know 100% why it's important that I am traveling to Canberra and being part of this, then that's awesome. I'm not going to be hijacked. But if I'm doing these things because I'm, and I'm not grounded, that's when I'm going to get hijacked, because
Yeah.
there's so much that whoever they are, wanting to hijack to keep people on those pillars right now. And the only way we can do it is keep coming back to center, asking what's important to me, and coming back into our own sense of power.
Well, yeah, and it's so hard to really get a true feel for what's what because of who has the controls of certainly mainstream media, but even in the internet, which is much
Yeah.
more of a covert presentation by, because I'm sure that with the presence that they have on that mainstream media, they've got to have at least half of the sites, in our world. But what I'm saying is one of the things I've noticed, and I'm open to understanding that propaganda works both ways, but um, it really feels like the people that I've come across in like interviews and stuff that are participating, and again, that's their thing. It's not mine. It's not yours. I mean, this is where I'm at today. But there's just not this vengeance. There's not this bloodthirsty warrior, distorted masculine vengeance, because it can run in all of us, man or women. There's this thoughtfulness. There's
Yeah.
this a lot like our paths. Like, why am I doing this? I don't know. I was told to do it, and I just know I got to do it. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that kind of thing, which is nice. That's nice.
Yeah. And that brings the solidity back to it, and that's, I think, what's helped these places be so peaceful. Like,
Yeah.
I've got friends in that have been in Ottawa, and I've got friends that have been in Canberra, and I'm just
Well,
using those two examples, but
yeah.
and both of them have talked about how peaceful it is. And that's an example, that's just an example of exactly what you're talking about there, of this people going, no, actually, I want to return to community. I want to return
Yeah.
to relationship, and I feel that this is a way that I can start to do that right now. I don't know why, but I'm just going to participate and come from that space of love, not anger and vengeance.
Yeah. Yeah. It has a much more intuitive feel than the logical, rational, you know, planning strategy type of the distorted masculine from this paradigm that we're kind of moving out of. It has more of an intuitive feel. Like there's less words. There's just the spirit kind of thing happening.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, let's see. Morgan has another question, or has a question. Do you have a vision of where relationships are going, or what they will be looking like?
Awesome. Um, what I was when you were saying that, then I was thinking about before, when I talked about the image that the one from me in August, the photo that you used,
Mm,
and that part of me that has lent into the feminine during this time to be able to use my voice and help to clear the distorted masculine. And then, likewise, he's been able to do the same, use his lean into his masculine to clear the distorted feminine. And I was thinking that when you were talking about the freedom rallies and things like that, that's actually it's a representation at the macro level as well, because it's that element of, like we just said before, the feminine and the masculine. And when you said Venus conjunct with Mars, I was thinking, oh, right. So to me, I'm imagining that they're conjunct, and so they're more able to see each other in the mirror, which is giving them a better perspective of one another.
mm,
And so then going to Morgan's question, where relationships are going, I think that's where those of us who are in relationship, in conscious relationships as spiritual partners, that is where we're going, is like we are standing as separate beings in this human experience and able to clearly look into the mirror with no attachment to needing or expecting anything from that other person. Like we and I'm simply using my experience as an example of this, because we know that the micro always reflects the macro. And and I've been through my own jealousy and my own anger and my own need for revenge and my own like goo energy and all of that towards James, particularly since that August period. And then but all of that was necessary as I'm standing there looking in the mirror of the masculine. All of that was necessary to see that in myself and see where I was still holding a need for him to fulfill me.
Right.
And because this all started it was like 18 months, 2 years ago, that I wrote a post about the longing that he was experiencing, and that longing that he was looking for outside of himself. And that's where we've been so opposite in this lifetime. Like I've always gone within, and I've always allowed myself to see and feel it within me, whereas he's not been on that path. And so it hasn't been as easy for him to be able to go inwards and to be able to see it from him. And I'm not saying this out of school, like he would 100% agree. And so it's been a massive journey there. But I guess the short answer of it is, where are the relationships between the masculine and feminine going, that we're able to see each other clearly? We're able to accept that the other exists and they make different choices to, the feminine makes different choices to the masculine makes different choices to the feminine, but neither of them are wrong.
That's
and
right.
It was not wrong that James needed to go to war to realize what was actually important to him. What was wrong was if we didn't have a conversation and speak about it, because that's our Kundalini energy rising, and that's us, each of us, allowing ourselves to fully not only embody but express our power as well. So yeah,
And
I hope that answered the question.
that's a great answer. And then once, let's just say once because she has, we talk about this over and over, but I mean, everyone knows these communities and platforms were initiated by women, the whole movement, right? But once she initiates it, it then it works both ways.
Yes.
Right. See, it works both ways. So, and there's always the squeeze, coming when, just like when we woke up, any of us woke up, what's the first thing we did? We want to go tell everybody. We're trying to force it on everybody, So there's that surge, and then you pull back once you get a little contrast and context, and you find your equilibrium, and so it works back and forth. And but I some of what I experienced and observed over the last few months has been this subtle unveiling, I guess, in the field, which again, maybe that's what the Mars and Venus arrangement over the next 2 years is symbolizing. There's more clarity. There's more understanding. It's not like you're in their space. It's like you're looking at them. Like, so when you said that, they're being in a certain position, like I'm just visualizing, like now you can actually step back and see what your mirror actually is, as opposed to being so close and just all over each other, which is the codependent paradigm that we've all come out of in this patriarchal. And I think that's happening at the macro level now, because people are taking a step back and going, oh, wait a minute. This doesn't look like I thought when I'm up close. You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's like they're inverse, but it's really the same principle. It's just being able to see things for what they are. And what I've noticed over the last few months is, things have to be said. I mean, things are said, and whether you're squeezing the soap too tight or too loose, I mean, it just happens. This is how we find equilibrium. But I've found that the energetic interactions and I guess, coming together, the events, in the energetic field are actually taking root in the physical. So I see more telepathy. Some things don't have to be said because I understand them. Like, okay, we got this. Like, we don't even have to talk about this. And there's a lot of things. I know if I look at my own situation with Morgan, there's a lot of things we talk about, and there's things that I know that we cleared. It's weird. So it's like this other part of us, which I guess is really could be connected or originates from the feminine, the creatrix, the feminine aspect. I'm getting a huge thing, so they must be really happy with me right now. But like it that's the part that we didn't apply. So even though he went to war in 2006, and there was an issue of, hey, you didn't discuss it with me. It goes deeper than that. It's not about that. That's where the feelings of disrespect and dishonor came. It's actually like, hey, we got this fucking superpower on the other side of the brain here. It's superpower called women's intuition, whatever you want, and we're not tapping into it, pal. Right? I mean, that's really what's happening, because that's what's taking effect, not just in relationships, but all the way around the world. Telepathy, intuition is becoming a bigger part of our lives, and that is the feminine within us.
Yeah, and for me, I know I dishonored that within myself for so long. Like, it's always been a natural part of me, and I know so many women are like this. Like, we were taught to quell it, to quash it. Like, you don't want to listen, and that's probably being burned at the stake, and all of that kind of thing has been imprinted in our psyche, and it stopped us from speaking. And for me, I really didn't allow myself to speak my intuition, because I thought, I'm just whatever, however I wanted to pass it off as trivial, I wouldn't speak it. And so this period for me has really been, no, you've got to speak it no matter what. You just got to speak it. And not expect anything from him in the process. And I've watched myself, like, I'll speak it and then expect that he's going to be, he's got to reply to me in this kind of way, and then go, no, that's not actually why you're doing it now. This is not an old game. This is something that's completely new, and we're here as equals. We're collaborating, and we're moving through this together, walking side by side with no need. We're on our own path. We're each on our own paths, but they become one.
Yeah. That's the thing too. Like, so many ways, like the oneness thing is really trippy. Like, even physical sensations that we have recently, and other experiences. But like this thing about, because, okay, if you look back at our lives, and we all have it. We had a grandmother, we had an aunt, we had whatever, a sister. I mean, but the intuition was treated primarily like a dog and pony show, like a sideshow, like a trivial thing. Occasionally, it would be, a woman might say, "Don't do that," and everybody just goes, "I got it." Like, the intuition's so loud, but for the most part, it was not considered real, I guess is the only way you could put it, because even if you look at, like, what you're talking about, women that were in touch with their intuition that shut it down, part of the shutting down was conforming to the patriarchal. Like, I got to do this or I'm going to get in trouble, or I got to do that, I'm going to get in trouble. And now I think what's happening, like what you were talking about with these people that, in Ottawa and Canberra, um, they're not like looking for trouble. They're just saying, I've had enough. And which really, if we dig down into it, they're following that internal guidance, that intuition, that, that's resurfacing now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a superpower that we all have, regardless of your body. And, I love what you say too about, what did you say? Falling in to your feminine. He's
Yeah.
falling into his masculine
Yeah.
because it only makes sense. I'm not a scientist, but if I fall into my masculine and I really align with that and the characteristics of that through my desire and through my work and so on, then what is that going to mean to my feminine side of me? She's only going to become more whole. How can she sustain her level of distortion if the other side is coming into a higher alignment?
Yeah.
And vice versa. So it makes a lot of sense. Morgan says that a lot. Over the years we talked, she goes, I'm in a woman's body for a reason.
Yeah.
In this incarnation. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said for that. And then maybe that little tidbit that you just provided, it says a lot in just a few words, because what are the results of Kirsty Lee or anyone else falling into, which is owning, accepting, nourishing, expanding their own physical gender, and what that does to the energetics of that being and the multiplicity of that being, not just with the gender that they are physically, but also with their counterpart gender, that we all hold these things within ourselves. So it makes a lot of sense.
Oh, I love the way you just described it, because it made it even more powerful for me in the way that you put it in that. And yeah, I mean, it's the result of the divine mirrors of the feminine that I've chosen to see in my life that have made me stronger.
Yeah.
And when I choose to see that, like, go back to, I think we started talking about it in the past, it's like, what am I creating? I'm creating a world where I've just got so much beauty and so much power. And if that's what I'm choosing to see, then of course that's what I'm going to receive. So, yeah, however you just said that then, Todd, like, helped me to bring it into a whole new level.
It's the least I could do for you, because you're helping me like crazy. Yeah. Oh, I forgot what I was going to say. Whatever you were talking about, I was going to add something to it. But no, I just, I really feel, well, I know what it is. Like, I watched a Chris Rock stand-up 5-minute thing the other day. It was an old one. And he was talking about relationships. He's a pretty sharp dude, at least his older stuff. And he was talking about relationships. I think he was 2-3 years married at the time or something. But he's a great observer, like a lot of comedians. And he was saying there was 3 things that we need to get over in this whole battle of the sexes. And I don't even remember the other 2, but one of them was the competition. And I'm like, thinking about it, I turned the TV off, like, what? But if you think about it, the patriarchal it's in competition, is like a base component. It's like a base accelerator. Everything's about competition. Dog eat dog. Oh, you're not eating? Well, that's your fucking problem, right? Oh, you're on welfare? Well, that's your problem. You need to do something. No feminine compassion. No one going, hey, where did they come from? Who was their parents? Did they have parents? What's it like to be raised, as a friend of mine, by a drug dealer and get hooked on, serious drugs from the age of 12 to 30? I mean, so this competition thing, because I really feel that even though we have these specific gender physicalities, obviously the soul has, a level of androgyny, I guess. But the thing is, like, I cannot relate to being a woman.
Mm.
So your strategy, or if that's what I want to call it, of falling into my masculine is an anti-competitive thing too. It's
Mm.
not in competition. It's actually in you know, searching or seeking my greater self, which in this particular incarnation is going to be there's going to be a serious thing to consider when it comes to what my gender is, right?
Mm.
And there's a lot of things that come from that, sexuality and so on and so on. But yeah, I just feel like this part of this clarity is going to be characterized, or is being characterized by a less of a there is no competition, right? I mean, it's just
No
a
need.
reverence, kind of a field of reverence, like, oh wow, I thought she was this, which was the great, that was the moon, but she's actually this, which then turn the mirror around. Oh, access I have access to this, and in my case, this feminine, right, energy, which is represented in the physicality by Morgan Lee.
Mm.
Robert Evans said it so good yesterday. He was talking about his sexual trauma and sexual distortion, his journey, and so I'll just kind of like use his. So I don't have to take her power
Mm-hmm.
to seemingly increase my power, theoretically feminine power. I can actually fall into my masculine, which is only going to bring me more clarity in seeing her, which is then going to translate to my feminine, becoming empowered as a man, which is
Yeah.
goes hand in hand with me falling into my masculine, which is
Yeah.
really cool because it decomplicates things too. Because
Totally.
then I don't have to search for the feminine in me, right?
Yeah, because your masculine doesn't need to hold space for my feminine. Your whole self holds
Mhm.
space for my whole self.
Right.
And then we're working together, and there is no need for competition. It doesn't
Mm.
exist
Right.
because we're helping each other to be more whole. So how can we need to compete with we can't we know there is no competition because we know that we are one and we're connected to it all and we are all in it.
Yeah.
And so I'm simply standing here being my whole self and offering you the the reflection to be able to see your whole self.
Right.
And Morgan's made a comment about the mirrors are dropping away, and that's what I believe as well. Is like when I am my whole self, I'm creating the hologram. Like I'm not seeing something as a mirror and going, okay, well, what's wrong with me here or whatever.
Hmm.
It's like I'm asking myself, okay, so what's within me that's creating the distortion in that hologram, and do I, am I actually creating that, or is that just a little glitch right now? Oh, okay, right, it's a little glitch, and I don't need to create that anymore. So
Right.
it's helping me to see it's I'm gaining more clarity in my hologram, and because all of this is my holographic creation and it's amazing, and so I'm choosing to see the beauty in that
Right.
rather
Because
than
that's what you are. That's what you're coming
yes.
into. Yeah. So I mean, because like so many things, but I mean, it's like the competition thing was like a lot of big programs. Like death is a big program in your face.
Yeah,
But the competition thing,
massive.
now, if you said to me, have you had a competitive program with men? I'd be like, hell yes, you
Yeah,
know. But if you told me that with women, I'd be going, no. I mean, I probably do that. I'm not aware of, but like, no, not even, but it is. So if you
yeah,
think about the last line of separation, and this is kind of a carryover from what I was saying before, it's masculine, feminine. And it's
yeah,
not about you're feminine, I'm masculine, we're different. It's about I got both of them and I'm not identifying, you know what I mean? I'm over. So to me, I'm always a big believer in the best defense is a good offense. So rather than sit here on my heels and wait for the energies to come pound my ass, I'm going to take, like you were talking about earlier, you just take these steps and you try to do it in equilibrium and collaboration with the energy that's theoretically opposing you, that you're working with, and you just move forward. I really like that approach that you kind of opened my eyes to, which is, and I've been feeling this. I got to admit, I'm getting chills now, but I've been like feeling this coming on, but no way I could have verbalized it until this conversation, which is, I'm going to fall into my masculine, you know, and I know that by doing that and doing it honestly, my feminine is, be it in me or outside of me, in whatever experiences I have, is going to fall right in line.
Yeah.
You know, it only makes sense.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, because that's what you are. That's what you're, you know, for me, like betrayal and trust was of the masculine was huge in this lifetime. And I came in with it, and it was confirmed for me for a really long time. And so noticing that and knowing that, I'm now, every single action I take is like, do I want to keep confirming that? No, I don't. I'm not interested in confirming that anymore. So I'm not going to look for it. I'm not going, and that's not spiritual bypassing, because I know that shadow has existed within me, and I've made so much peace with it that I am now choosing to allow it to be there, and to see it still trying to say to me, oh, you know, maybe you should not fully trust this or whatever, and go, it's okay, it's all right, I'm in charge of this creation. I'm actually creating a situation. My hologram will reflect my level of trust of self and wholeness of self. And that's what I'm going to choose to see.
Some powerful stuff.
We are.
I know we are. You know, I don't know. It's like, you know, so much of the emphasis that we've had has been on our shadow, and we've come to respect it and honor it and love it. I absolutely.
Yeah.
And so many people, because you can see the difference from 10 years ago. Like people were just like, you know, but I don't know. There's another part to this. And I think it kind of could be looked at like from what you're saying, like falling into your feminine, or Todd falls into his masculine. There's another side to it. Like we spend a lot of time in the dirt, you know, and and maybe it's a byproduct or a product of our deep dives, and that is this, what you're talking about, this hologram that you're creating and experiencing, that's becoming beautiful, serene, balanced, harmonious. There's a less of a charge. There's a healthy neutrality. There's less, uh, you know, there's less pushback from, let's just say, the human mind, the monkey mind, the ego, whatever you want to call it. There's less of that self-depleting dialogue happening. I mean, you can feel it. And it's got a subtlety to it, a lot like these programs did, such as competition. But it's just one thing. I think if we took a poll of the people in these communities, which we don't even know how big these are, right? I mean, we really don't.
Yeah.
Has there been an ascending line over the last 10 years? I mean, you know, remember life before, you know, and it was like up, down, 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 down. And this one's just been like this soft, subtle, and with each degree of ascending, you know, trajectory, all this stuff is coming in, like the telepathy, the intuition, the non-physical stuff. I mean, the just everything, right?
Yeah.
Like it's irrefutable in my mind, and that's exciting to me. As much
Yeah.
as we still see this and that, but it's not like it used to be. It doesn't stick anymore, you know.
Yeah. And it's as a result of, like, the words that both you and I have used is that reverence and the respect and the honor, and, you know, that self-reverence and that self-devotion. So many of us have been committed to and devoted to this path of self for so many years, and And now the prevailing energies are offering us the opportunity to like fully embody that, and everything, like those energies are collaborating with us as well,
Mm-hmm.
because they are us, I guess. Like
Yeah.
we can always bring it back
No,
to
it
us.
is. I mean, it's crazy.
Mm.
Like to turn on and last night turn on the video, YouTube on the TV, try to distract myself from the process that I knew was happening to me, which was just energy coming in and everything that it brings. And then you see Justin Trudeau come out, and I watch it for 3 minutes, and I listen to his speech, and I just kind of look at it, and it's, on one hand you can go, that's a bit shocking, you know, and and it's there. It's just, but it's not a loud thing. It just goes, that's, but it's, what did you expect? And then the other side goes, life goes on. Let's go. Let's go. What are we going to
Yeah.
create? What are we going to do? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just starting to get outweighed dramatically, and I think you can see that even in the macro. You can see that people are just not attaching like they used to. It's not
Yeah.
like Peter Piper leading everyone out of town. You know what I mean? It's just not. It's no longer blind.
Yeah. And the beautiful example is those people that have been doing something. Someone I love was in a job for 31 years and said no to what they told him he needed to do, and
Wow.
he was cast out, and so he then had to find a different way. But it's like he was forced to step away. But as soon as he was forced to step away, all of a sudden this whole world has opened up to him, and he's just going, oh my God, like I was so in it I couldn't actually see. And I think
That's
that's happened for so many people, and that's what's helping to take the charge away. So many people are just
mhm.
going, no, it really wasn't working, was it?
That's that. What we were talking about, though. It's like you step back because you're so
Yeah.
into it. Like
Yeah.
you're either in it or you're face to face, and like the old saying, you can't see, the forest for the trees, or it's right in front of your face or whatever. And then you step back, and so like I was using an example a while ago. Like you can look back and you can see who she is in my situation. Like you can
Mm.
actually see it at a bigger level.
Yeah.
It's Morgan, but it's the feminine. It's this whole multiplicity, kind of multi-bodied thing that could be Mother Mary when I was a kid. It could be, but at the same time, the stepping back. And how many times have you heard these stories over the 10 years? I know, doing this show, I mean, like, people saying, I was in the fucking shit, you know, and and the whole universe dropped, this big dump truck dropped all this crap on me. We all went through it. And then you step back and you come out the other side, and the fire's still warm in your ass, and things are already happening. Boop, 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 boop. I mean, it's like, oh my God. Not only do you see with clarity, but you start to have this supernatural symbiosis with the universal, with the external, and things just start going your way.
Yeah.
Like I'm just amazed, like at Monique Hendry and so many. It's one thing for a man to leave Houston in 2016 with a suitcase, and of course that's not going to apply anymore. I shouldn't even say that. But to see female incarnates in their 40s and 50s packing up everything, saying sayonara, and just going out there. I don't know how I'm going to make money. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm doing it. That's the
Yeah.
line in the sand.
Yeah.
That's your friend at 31 years going, I'm done.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And those people are inspiring other people to do the same, like, and then more and more people get to see how many people are actually on this road, and they're like, oh wow, it mustn't be as bad as I thought it was in the first place, and they go and they check it out.
Yeah.
And there's so much power in there's so much beauty in what's actually happening. Like, and we all know when the dump truck of shit gets poured on us, like, it feels really awful at the time. But there's so much beauty when we can actually sit in the shit and go, radio, I'm in the shit, how am I going to get out of it? And because we've got to know that we're in it to be able to get out of it in the
That's
first
right.
place.
And then
Yeah.
you come out and you're walking down the street and you got a bucket of gold in your hand. Where did that come from? Oh, Well, that's the shadow for you. So I think, so many things are coming full circle. Like so many things are coming full circle. I don't really know. And again, the guiding system seems to be what feels right. What feels right in the spontaneous, and the intuitive is there, the creative is there. It's all, the sacred life force energy, sacred sexuality, whatever you want to call it. And you just, I don't know. I just have, even though time's leaving, I have a higher respect to, I guess, for everything, but, for time. So
The time.
I'm going to take the time just to say to you that I love you very much. You're my sister. I feel that very deeply. I feel very connected to a lot of people around the world. I'm not saying that I'm anything. I'm just saying I have a moment to share with my sister and say that I love you. I really admire you. I can't wait to the day that you and Morgan and James and I can kind of hang out. God knows we'll probably like start universes and stuff. I don't know, but I really have a lot of respect for the both of you, for your family, what you represent, and the way that you come to the party. So I just want to share that with you in front of everybody, and it is what it is.
Thank you for taking the time, and I receive, and I love you also. And I'm excited about that too. I'm excited about I'm excited about meeting you in person one of these days, and also meeting Morgan. Like, we've not met in person either.
Maybe you will. Maybe you will soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
Where
you will
is she now?
soon. She is in she's back in Harvey Bay, believe it or not.
Oh, she's in Harvey Bay.
She started in Harvey Bay. It's been such a crazy, but it's all beautiful now. It's all good. She's actually really settled, which has been, so she's, it was just, it was a lot. This whole year was a lot for everybody, but it's been like a watershed, because, it's just, you worry, you love somebody, you worry, and it's a crazy time over there, and but yeah, she's good, man. I think she's got 4 months in a great place, in a great spot. And so that feels good too. And it feels, like there's a micro macro relationship too. So I feel like, yeah.
Yeah, and I think like knowing you guys and what you go through. James and I like live in the same household, and we see each other all the time. And you guys are on different sides of the world, but we're actually going through exactly the same things.
I agree.
In our relationship with one another, and because it's not happening at this individual 3D level, it's happening at the cosmic level, and we're learning how to relate to each other at that level. And so it doesn't matter whether we're in the same house or whether we're on opposite sides of the world. It's exactly the same.
I agree. I totally agree with that statement. And I know it'll make more and more sense as time goes on. But I really appreciate it. I'll see James in a couple of days, and
you will.
Again, I love you, and thank you for coming on. And I'll see you again. I'll see you again in a few weeks or so. You take care.
Yeah.